Hello, exiles. Long time no see, especially the Path of Exile community. It's been quite a while since I've stepped into the post sphere, but with teaser season starting, I felt myself kind of wanting to dip my toes into talking about some of the things that we've already seen. And we've seen one thing. I guess two if you count the teaser, but it's literally been one. And I do want to run through that real quick. It's 33 seconds long. It's about quality of life, although that is not what we're talking about in a moment. All the same, let's get that started.
Hi, I'm Mark Roberts, Game Director on Path of Exile. This is the first in a series of videos covering upcoming changes in our 3.25 expansion, the Settlers of Kalguur. In 3.25, Reservation effects, such as heralds and auras, persist through death, allowing you to get right back into combat as fast as possible. You can find out more about 3.25 on July 18th at our GGG Live event. See you then!
Did you see it? I won't lie, it's definitely a blink and you miss it moment, but I'll back it up right to the spot. There. This, which has been screenshotted, clipped out, and shared for the world to see. That is, in no uncertain terms, a straight determination nerf. And I'm going to be honest, probably very differently than most people. Some would even say copium. I immediately saw this and I got excited. Yeah, I got excited because this might as well translate to melee buffs. We're going to explain how I get there, and we're going to talk about what this might mean, because determination, if you, I don't know, study the game enough, right? You look at the way various builds are played, and you see what things are repeatedly inserted over and over again, even in places where it seems maybe counterintuitive. You look at determination and you say, wow, even if you have zero armor equipment, this has a lot of value. Especially, I want to say, probably up until like red maps. Having just determination on a build that has other defenses is like a huge bonus, and probably like the opening gateway to immortality. And you get like a little bit more on this, either some flat physical reduction or some phys converted. And even the squishiest build now has very good prospects against physical damage in like a situation where you're mapping, right? A single big hit is still going to be very scary. This isn't going to be great for that. But mapping, you know, where it's just all white mobs, magic mobs, the occasional rare, this is massive. This is a huge bonus to your character's survivability. Now, one of the first things I definitely want to say is this isn't like a secret buff, because you see that reservation at 26%. Unfortunately, someone has already done the math. This was something I kind of picked up on pretty quickly myself. 26% does not mean that it's a good thing, because if you look back in the video, they have a tremendous amount of auras going. If I can get past it, there we go. They have 5 auras going. And that's 50%, that's 50%, that's 35%, that's flat mana. And that's whatever it is. I'm kind of afraid to like say anything concrete about these, but they found math where this made sense as a 50% aura, and they also found that as a 35% aura, they couldn't quite reconcile what it would be at now. And that's an important thing to consider. If you back the video up, I believe it also shows they have health being reserved. That's also been factored in. It's all here by Ashalel on Reddit. They did a great job. And this again was kind of expected by me, and it gave me things to look at, because when you see a nerf, but you're pretty sure it's not really a nerf, you got to look at the big picture and say, what else is being changed around it where this change makes more sense? And of course, the biggest thing about this change making sense is the flat armor, which is what's being nerfed, I think by about half, which is a lot, but the flat armor was too much. Determination on its own gave you too much of a kit in terms of using armor to boost your resilience. Also, that the flat 50% more buff was enough to make like a well-rolled granite flask tremendous, right? Again, it was too much for the mapping situation. I think a character could basically reliably have like 10,000 armor off of just determination and a well-rolled granite flask. That might be a little much, but definitely in the 6,000 range at the very least. With a little more optimization, I'm sure 10k is just fine, and that's a lot. And that's a lot for a character that's not investing in armor, because that character is probably investing in evasion. And if that character is investing in evasion, they're already not getting hit most of the time. One of the things that tipped me off to the idea that this is not going to be a total nerf to armor is the current state of Body Armours. Just looking at this, and this kind of is parodied across the other slots of equipment, you get more evasion on a piece of gear than you do armor. That's an issue. I'm just going to say it. That's an issue. That's a big issue because anyone who's been playing Path of Exile will tell you that evasion bases are quite a bit better. It's the same with the armor evasion bases. The armor evasion base, if you're taking iron reflexes, will give you more armor. So actually, the Zodiac leather not only has better base evasion rating values and access to spell suppression, but additionally, if you take iron reflexes, it actually gives you more armor than a traditional armor build. The only thing you're missing out on is, say, more strength and access to better armor percent nodes. But if you're all evasion, that doesn't matter because you can scale it with percentage evasion nodes. And that's a pretty significant situation. The hardest thing for a build like that to fit in would be determination because of the strength requirement. But I mean, at a certain point, stats, you figure them out. You could require 160 in everything, and eventually any build gets there. It's an important thing to consider in this situation because the suffixes on armor aren't good enough. I almost think they need to add maybe max res as a suffix, which could be coming, honestly. Because the whole thing about this current upcoming league, Settlers of Kalguur, melee's a big focus. And that's where I kind of went with my thinking of, okay, determination is being changed. What does that signal? And what it signaled to me is fortification might get looked at, right? Just one of many things that could be touched. The other thing was armor bases are going to get improved because as the playstyle that puts you the most in the action, it should have the most inherent tools for survival. That's just how it is, right? You're going to be exposed to the most damage. You have to have the most ways to deal with the damage as well. Fortification has been in a largely pretty bad state for a long time now. It's not there when you need it in certain scenarios, like on a poison build, right? If you're playing Poison Viper Strike, you might not have fortification, even though you're still getting into melee range and using a strike skill, and that's just not a great situation. Additionally, it takes a support gem or a mastery or something to get it, inherent. I think there's like Abyss Unique Gloves, a staff mace mastery, just off the top of my head, or it's on a cluster jewel still. I can't remember if that one got moved or not. The point being, fortification feels kind of bad to invest in. You have to have like really high per hit damage for this to feel strong and good and usable in a single target scenario, right? Where the threshold for getting your fortify stacks maxed out is a bit more strict. On a really fast attacking build, you might not have it. And you might be able to get to it, but you do have to consider all of the time you're playing the game before you get there, right? You have to be able to get there. That's an important part of the game, is your progression through maps, and fortification really falls off in that situation. It's not the best feeling. It's great while mapping, but in single target scenarios, it can fail you, especially if you're dealing with an enemy that is super resilient to your damage. The other possibility that I kind of came to is this is a really high amount of reservation investment from our, test video. And my first thought when I saw that was, man, they've got a lot going here. You need like cluster notables and stuff to make this work. Unless things like the armor mastery that was cut back in, 3.21 is coming back, or maybe just reservation efficiency in general is getting buffed across the board, which is another way to say buff determination and grace because they're so mandatory right now. And you make it easier to fit them, and then you kind of scale them back a little bit at the same time, which to me, that's another thing that makes a lot of sense and is very likely a possibility. I don't think both of these things are going to happen, but I do think at least one probably. If I had to bet, it's going to be the item bases are being changed because Grinding Gear Games lately really likes to lean on giving you more opportunities to find, roll, craft, make use of better base equipment, right? They want you to invest to get to the next stage. And it seems very likely that something like better base armor values, and then I would hope some sort of suffix to match the evasion situation with spell suppression, because currently bottom left tree character players don't have the best options when it comes to, say, spell damage. If it's a physical spell, they've got pretty good options. Fair. But elemental damage is almost a hole, in the sense that elemental attacks you're going to be really strong against, because that's when max res is strongest. Elemental attacks are much lower values compared to spells. But spell suppression is 50% less spell damage taken. Essentially, that's insurmountable. The max res equivalent of that is an additional 12.5% all maximum resistances for your elementals. That's a lot. That's 88% all max res. You can get that, but it's difficult, right? There's really no gear support for it. You're getting it on the tree and in other weird places. You might have to be using a brass dome, which is opportunity cost in other ways. I'm hoping they're hinting that this is going to be changed. I'm hoping we're going to get max res rolls on our armor. I'm hoping we're going to get fortify improvements. I would also be happy if it turned out to be reservation improvements in general, because that would free up build space elsewhere for so many builds to do things to improve their situation. And to be honest, I think the power level of players right now on the defensive side of things is a little lacking, in the sense that you need like very specific pieces of equipment or ascendancy bonuses to make a really coherent defensive. Man, where was I going with that? You need either a very specific buff from an ascendancy, a specific ascendancy nodes to prop you up, or you need very specific high-end equipment in order to get your defensive layers in line in a way that will work like in the proper endgame. If you don't have those things, you have to trade for it. That's it, right? And I mean, they don't balance around Soul Self-Found, but having to trade for something, right? Having to farm lesser content to trade with someone who has one of those builds that can sneak into the really high stuff early doesn't feel great. It doesn't. The optics there, like on a personal level for me, at least, have never been the best. I'm not saying I want to be able to do everything easily, but there should be a road, I guess, right? If you get there and it's a cliff and you're like, all right, I gotta wait for that guy to get across before I can continue, that's kind of an issue. I think that's a shortcoming of the game. At the very least, I think as part of getting melee in shape, we're going to see major defensive reworks, and that's what this determination nerf, more than anything, signals to me is coming, because they cannot buff melee and nerf armor. That's just, that dog won't hunt. You're that would be an incredible blunder. The follow-up video for that reveal will be just tremendous. I guess it would be the patch notes review where I bring out a bottle of Jack and I slam the whole thing, because holy shit. Let's pretend that's not going to happen though. It's not copium. That's one thing I want to say before I go, because a lot of people are doing the copium memes in the comments around here. It's not copium. This is definitely a sign that they're doing something else that's probably going to really help the melee situation. And I can tell, because from my perspective, again, I said this at the beginning, I can't say it enough, termination was a little too efficient. And when something is too good, it kind of strangles the rest of the design space. This is like, I don't know, they're bleeding a snake bite, right? They're getting the venom out so that the rest of it can heal. It looks bad, right? But this had to happen. And I'm very excited about it. I'm excited to see what they start teasing in the future, because I'm sure we're going to get some melee commentary from the devs very soon. And one of the things I did think about is maybe a really interesting side effect of this is what is going to happen with shields if they are going to go the route of improving your equipment values. Because shield skills kind of have like a weird damage cap issue, where like the top quality shields, I feel they could be a little better compared to the top quality weapons if you're doing like a shield damage skill. So be nice if this also was like one of those things where it now opens up the ability for a shield to go up to 3,500, 36, 4,000 armor maybe. That'd be really cool in my opinion as well. But yeah, anyway, thanks for listening to me ramble. I hope it gave you something to think about and maybe quelled some concerns. This should really be seen. This should really be looked at optimistically, I think, unless they say otherwise. This is a sign of things being moved around in the bottom left section of the tree. so that they can increase the power down there. That's 100% what this has to be. Because unless you're talking about like a few fringe builds, there is not enough power down there. Everyone says it. Melee's in too bad a state. This needed to happen. And I'm pretty confident that this is going to come alongside improvements to melee. And that's again why I bring up Fortification. Man, I'm rambling. Have a good one, Exiles. I'm going to get out of here before I talk your ears off.